Assalamualaikum. I hope you all are doing well. Once again, I welcome you all in my CSYSS. So today we will be learning about output devices. So let's get started. Okay, so before starting this lesson, I would want you to know some tips about exams point of view, right? So in this section, courses, you know that in 2023 onwards, all the exams, this section of the course have been modified or simplified, right? So in the past paper, students were needed to know how each output devices physically worked. They needs to know how these devices work. But now, 2023 onwards, you should know what are output devices, input or output devices, and what it does and why it does. Okay, and when we can use these devices, right? So there will be only three questions about input, output, and storage devices, what each device does, and why and when. Okay. And then if you are using older version of your textbook, so maybe it contains more details than it's required. So please, I will suggest if you can buy new books. So don't waste your time learning all those material which is not needed. But if you want to learn those things for your better understanding, go for it. There is nothing to worry or nothing to, you know, ashamed. So So, first of all, what are the output devices? So, output devices shows the results of the processing in a way humans can understand. Whatever you can see on the screens, or it's basically the results of any types of a processing. It can be in the soft form or hard form. In a general purpose computer system, the main output devices is monitor and screen. But on the other output devices are like projectors, printers, speakers, actuators, and LCDs. So the first output device is actuator. Actuators are basically used in the conjunction with the motor to translate energy into a real world movement of a physical object. Actuator is basically used with a conjunction to move some objects. It can be anything. It will be helpful to any object to move, right? So it comes in a variety of size and have been made specifically for a particular function. And examples where we can use this actuators are turning a wheel, opening or closing a door, controlling a conveyor belt, operating machinery, moving robotics arms, vibrating a machine, starting or stopping a pump, opening or closing a valve. So they are often used with sensors. Usually, it's not. Usually, we use this actuators with sensors, where the sensors will get an input from the environment. Then this value will be stored, and this input will be sent to the microprocessors. Microprocessors will take some decision, and then all those basis on those decisions, is going to do some task on a physical object. सो बेसिकली एक्चुएटर हमारे पास सिर्फ हेल्प करता है किसी भी चीज को मूव करने के लिए Next we have lasers and inkjet printers. Printers are basically output devices. It helps us to create hard copies of digital documents. Hard copies are needed when you do not have access to an electronic device. Inkjet printer. In inkjet printer, it use print head which moves across the page. Inkjet prinटर में एक प्रिंट हेड होता है जो पेज के ऊपर राइट लेफ्ट मूव करता है और जब वो मूव करता है and then it's going to spray some ink droplet, you know, inkjet printer, so ink is going to be used in the ink cartridge. जब वो प्रिंट हेड मूव करता है उसके ऊपर तो उसके ऊपर जो there is some cartridge and inside this cartridge there are some fine nozzles, right? And whenever that a print head will move on the piece of paper, then through this card nozzles, ink will be dropped on some specific area wherever we want to print something. Those droplets can be piezoelectrics or thermal bubble. It can be those piezoelectric means those are droplets basically have two types. It can be any tiny charge or a thermal bubbles. Thermal means tiny resistors. Inkjet printer reduces high quality hard copies of digital images or documents, so we do not need to know that what are those printers work, how it's going to work. We just need to know what is, why we use this, when, and what is this. That's it. Okay. So large cartridge or ink droplet cartridge and large paper trays. It contains larger cartridge and a larger paper trays. In the laser printer, we have multiple definitely lasers, very fast when making multiple copies of a document. It is useful when we have a high volume of prints. Job requires it have a low running cost per page. It's usually used in businesses and education systems. Have a large toner cartridge. Ink laser printer basically use dry ink. It doesn't use droplets or ink and draw rotating drum has been used here over here, but in the inkjet printer we use different nozzles and use positive and negative charges to make the toner particles sticks to piece of paper. Heat is then used to bond the particles to the paper. These are my answers. Next, 3D printers. 3D printers basically help us to create 3D models, and these models definitely will be having physical existence, and for this we use different kind of material. This material can be plastic, resin, or any type of material. And 3D printers allows precision and can be used in machines, medicines to create photosynthesis, prosthetics and blood vessels. 3D printers can be used to create rapid prototypes, and models can be transmitted digital. Then we have projectors. There are two types of projectors, basically DLP means digital light processing and LCD liquid crystal displays. Both used to display output on a larger screens, both uses for businesses and education purposes, but there is a minor difference between DLP and LCD. DLP uses millions of micro mirrors arranged in a grid on a microprocessor within the projector. And in the LCD, we use three mirror filters to separate an image into red, green, and blue wavelengths, right? And the three images are then combined to produce the full color image, which is passed through the lens of the wall. But in the DLP, light is shined through that color filters and the mirrors. The positions of the mirror can be altered to change the intensity of the light. So in DLP, we use micro mirrors, which is used for reflection of the light and then the image is displayed. But LCD use three different separate lines, red, green, blue. And through those lines, when those lines will be combined, wavelengths will be combined, then the image will be displayed on the wall. So we have two different types of digital light projector and liquid crystal display projector. and their advantages and disadvantages. DLP uses high contrast ratios, smooth video, high reliability, smaller and lighter, better suited to dust atmosphere than LCD projector. On the other hand, LCD uses gives us sharper image. It uses better color saturation and intensity. It uses less power and greater less heat, quieter running than DLP. DLP disadvantages. DLP do not have great component. It is not good as LCD projectors, and image tend to suffer from shadow when shadowing a moving object. Liquid crystal display disadvantages. Its contrast ratios are not as good as DLPs, have a limited life, LCD panels degrade over time. Speakers. Speakers basically convert our electrical signals into digital through DAC. Speakers are used to take digital sounds or recording and output them as a sound waves which can be heard by humans. It is then passed through an amplifier to create a current large enough to drive a loudspeakers. The loudspeaker converts the current into a sound wave. It usually used for listening music and listening video sounds, telephone calls and alarms. There are three types of LEDs, or you can say the display screens or monitors we used. First one is LCD, LED, and OLED. LCD is basically the flat panel display. LED is backlit system. LED contains some backlit system, and OLED means organic light emitting diode. Its curved shape. LCD is crystals can be turned between opaque, not able to see go through, and transparent, able to see through. It can be transparent and it can be opaque. LED gives better contrast and brightness. OLED self-contained LEDs. OLED contains self-contained LEDs. It means OLED, organic LED, make their own LEDs. It doesn't require any outside LED. LCD benefits are low power consumption, bright colors, high resolution, cool temperature. LED, less power consumption, colors are vivid, thin and lightweight, better quality than LCD. OLED, definitely much better than LCD and LED. Not required LED, a backlit, very thin, flexible, 360 view. But there is only one drawback in the OLED, which is high power consumption. In the LED, we have more expensive than LCD, right? LED is very expensive than LED. So LCD means used LED. It's a drawback. Liquid crystal display. LCD means LCD screens are made up of millions of tiny liquid crystals. The display is made of pixels arranged in a matrix. The display requires backlighting. They are used for TVs, monitors, tablets, and phones. They have low power consumptions and run at a cool temperature. They do not suffer image burn or flicker issues. They provide bright images and colors. They are cheaper to produce than LED screens. Light emitting diode screens. LED screens is made up of tiny LEDs. They do not need backlighting, which makes them thinner and lighter to hang on the wall. LED screens are replacing LCD displays in TVs, monitors, laptops, and mobile phones. They have better image quality and a longer lifespan. They can be used to create very large screens that can be used to show visual content at events such as footballs matches and music festivals. They consumes very little power, making them suitable for being switched on for many hours in the day. Organic light emitting diode. It is much thinner and lighter than traditional LCD screens. Use organic light emitting diodes. They use organic carbon compound to create semiconductors. No form of backlighting is required. It have very thin flexible screens. Next, the very important concepts about sensors. And sensors are, by the way, input devices, and it is used to measure a physical property of their environment, such as light level, temperature, or movement. Sensors can be used for monitoring system and controlling system. We can use sensors for monitoring and controlling. A monitoring system track the state of a system. It gathers data and may issue warning messages. The control system will control the system based upon the input from sensors. For example, if the water temperature in a fish tank fell below the acceptable level, a control system would start up a heater. The system will then continue to check the water temperature readings, and when they are within the acceptable range, it will switch off the heater. This process of outputting affects the following setup if input values received from the sensor is called a feedback loop. So in this slide I have mentioned some sensors name and what it measures and their typical uses, like where we can use these types of sensors. So the first one is acoustic. It used to measure sound level, and you can use it to change in sounds level of industrial machinery, to monitor noise pollution, and in security system to detect suspicious sounds. Accelerometer, acceleration rate, tilt, vibration, and you can use it in the vehicle movements, deploy safety features if needed, mobile phones to detect orientation of the device. The next sensor is flow. It's used to measure rate of gas, liquid and powder flow, detect changes in the flow through pipes in water system. Next sensor is gas. It's used to measure the presence of a gas. For example, carbon monoxide detects level of confined. Next sensor is humidity. It's going to detect some measure of water vapors, and it's usually used in greenhouses to monitor humidity. Next is infrared, detects motions or a heat source. We can use these sensors in the security system where we have to detect intrigues, where who breaks the beams, and we have to detect heat radiation of objects used by emergency service to detect peoples. The next one is level sensors. We can use this in liquid level. It's going to detect the level of petrol in car tank, level of water in water tanks, and detect the drop in water levels due to a leak. Then the next sensor is light levels. It's going to automatically switching on lights when it gets dark, and we can use this sensor in street lights or headlights, etc. Next sensor is magnetic field. We can measure presence and strength, and we can use this in anti-lock braking systems and rotating machinery such as turbines, etc. where we are actually measuring the presence and strength of some magnetic field. Next sensor is moistures. We can measure through we can measure level of moistures through this moisture sensors, and we can use this in soil and buildings. Next sensor is pH sensors. We can use these sensors to measure acidity and alkaline. It's typically used in monitoring soil to ensure optimum growing and monitor pH level in chemical processes. Next sensor is pressure. It's going to measure the gas, liquid, or physical pressure, and we usually use to measure the tire pressure, pipes during manufacturing process. Proximity will measure the distance, and we can use this to measure the position of objects in robotics and to measure the safety system to prevent objects colliding. Temperature is used to measure the temperature, and we can use this in swimming pools and chemical processes, and we can use this temperature sensors in fish tanks and all those where we have to measure temperature. So there is a question, and try to answer this question. What type of sensor would we use to help drivers when reversing? Motion, infrared light, and proximity. They have 5 seconds to think this answer. Is this a monitoring system or a control system? That previous one, monitoring or control? Comment the answer of this question in the chat box, and I will tell you that either you are right or wrong. Thank you so much for today. Take care. Allah Hafiz.